On ESPN networks, from one of the nation's most cherished arenas, Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, the NC State Wolfpack take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Welcome courtside with former Notre Dame standout Jordan Cornette. I'm Dave Leno. Both teams have top scores from the respective leagues. For NC State, Torin Dorn, and for Penn State, Lamar Stevens.
Yeah, we start, Dave, with Torin Dorn, an established piece, a heck of a scorer. Look at the Wolfpack. He's the lone performer on this team to hit double figures in all 9 contests. A dynamic piece, a guy who's comfortable putting it on the deck. They're going to establish him early for a team that likes to play fast and get up and down. As for this Penn State team, you talk about dynamic. How about this versatile piece? Lamar Stevens getting even with this guy. Beautiful game with his back to the basket, but likes putting that thing on the deck, making defenders dance on the perimeter. Contrasting styles. I don't know how to call it. We're in Atlantic City. The winner of this one, it's a roll of the dice.
Well, Lamar Stevens, as you see there, second in the Big Ten in scoring. He is only behind Purdue's Carson Edwards right now, coming off a 12-point performance against Colgate. They're relying on him a lot in Happy Valley. On the flip side, there's Dorn, double figures in every game this year. The redshirt senior, he has really had to pick up his leadership in year 2 under Kevin Keatts at NC State. Penn State, the alternate gray uniforms. NC State in the black uniforms. It's Beverly to control for the Wolfpack, and we're underway from Atlantic City. Tyberski, Riley, and Porterfield are the officials this afternoon. NC State coming in at 8-1. They have won their last 2 over Vanderbilt and Western Carolina. This is one of the top scoring teams in the ACC through non-conference play. And rejected down low by Reeves.
It's a good start defensively for Penn State, protecting the rim in the interior. North Carolina State pursues high percentage shots. The numbers speak for themselves.
Second consecutive game that Mike Watkins is starting down low for the Nittany Lions. Also keep an eye on Bolton as well. As for NC State, we mentioned Dor Johnson not starting. It's Beverly that's making his 4th start this year. There's Devin Daniels with 15 to shoot for the Wolfpack. And it's going the opposite way.
Daniels non-committal in terms of the exchange. Looked like he wanted to set a ball screen. Non-committal leads to the violation.
NC State is led by Kevin Keatts in his 2nd year. Yesterday, the NC State Board of Governors approved a new 6-year contract extension that will run through the 2023-24 season.
Asked him to let me borrow some money. He laughed. He said, I'm a family man. That money doesn't go to me. It goes to all the right places. Joking around, but all smiles, especially with the start he's had with North Carolina State.
It's inside to Watkins, who's coming off a double-double, 18 and 16 in 23 minutes. They're looking to get him going a little bit. This is just his 5th game this year.
Such a critical piece for a team, and you talk about his freshman campaign and what he was able to do for this Penn State team. As long as they can get him touches down low and be a scoring piece, Penn State at times can go through scoring droughts.
Strong there from Daniels and hauled in by Stevens. Looking down low for Watkins. That was a good read by Daniels, and here comes the Wolfpack with Dorn. Odd numbers here for Dorn, but he gets the floater.
Vintage North Carolina State, a lazy entry pass on the post entry. Watkins did a phenomenal job early post. Stevens lackadaisical with it, and North Carolina State generates those turnovers into easy offense going the other way.
We were speaking with Kevin Keatts pregame, and he said they want to get out and run on this Penn State team.
We got numbers here, 5-on-4.
There's C.J. Bryce. Hit his foot there. It's going to go the opposite way to the Nittany Lions.
And take a look, Stevens, not the right post pass. Daniels offers his body up to get it going the other way. Then you've got momentum. You're playing downhill.
Pat Chambers said that the offense for Penn State just needs to be more consistent. Here's Bolton inside, slicing in strong, and hauled in by Wyatt Walker. Beverly's that high-energy guy to run the one for Kevin Keatts. Baseline pull-up by Daniels, not to be. And here comes Reeves. And the first 3 of the game from Penn State's Lamar Stevens, a guy that can come out and hit that shot consistently.
And Reeves did a good job of pushing the tempo. Look, the Nittany Lions, they'll be opportunistic in the open floor. Transition defense, you must communicate, and at all times have an awareness of Lamar Stevens. Only 5 of 29 from the three-point line this season. But again, he's a scorer. You give him an open look, makes it more makeable.
Beverly for three, and it rattles home. Just 2 of 13 in the previous 2 games for Beverly, starting in place of Markel Johnson, the junior from Cleveland.
You talk about a specialist, 43 of his 56 shots this season, that for Beverly being from the three-point line.
And a scene there for Ron Shearbolton, the freshman, who's having a marvelous rookie campaign.
Absolutely.
Penn State holding a 4-point edge now early here in Atlantic City. I'd like to run a lot through Wyatt Walker's up top. He's a transfer from Sanford. And Bryce is fouled there by Josh Reeves of Penn State. Penn State is led by Pat Chambers, who coached the Nittany Lions to an NIT championship last year. He also received a 6-year contract extension 5 weeks after winning the school's second NIT title. The Philly native tallied 26 wins last year, the second most in Penn State history. Jordan, from what he inherited when he first got to Happy Valley to now, it's night and day.
Yeah, and I'm not going to mix words here. He inherited a program that was not in a good place, not in a good place at all. And what he's brought here is a determination, a resiliency, and he's now established this program with Big Ten talent, something that it was devoid of for a lot of years prior to Chambers' arrival. They've got the right guy, and he's got a great staff.
Second offensive foul there, and it will go back to the Nittany Lions. Now, Penn State is 5-4, 0-2. They're coming off of 2 Big Ten losses. Remember, the Big Ten Conference is now playing 20 league games. That started last year, so they fell to Indiana by 2 and lost at Maryland as well. Another offensive foul. Again, coming off a high screen. And we're going to step aside here in Atlantic City. Penn State up by 4 for NC State. Here from historic Boardwalk Hall. Back in a moment.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Air Force Reserve. College tuition assistance is available with the Air Force Reserve. Citi, welcome what's next. And the Basketball Hall of Fame, where the game never ends.
You are watching the Big Ten on ESPN. That's the largest pipe organ in the world at historic Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Penn State going up against NC State. Now, there's been a lot of history in this building. The first indoor college football game was played here in 1930. And also the Democratic Convention in 1964, where Lyndon B. Johnson received the nomination. Also seen Dr. Martin Luther King made a televised speech on civil rights that helped encourage the passing of the 65 Voting Rights Act as well, and some championship boxing matches, including the 88 Mike Tyson's, the knockout that shook the world, the 91-second defeat of Michael Spinks to become the heavyweight champion. And just a recap here of all these historical events. Miss America was here. Jordan Cornette is also here. You just feel it. The aroma inside Boardwalk Hall, it instantly hits you when you cross the threshold, doesn't it?
Yeah, first time here. First time stepping into the Boardwalk Hall here, and you see those notable performers here. It makes me feel like I got to up my game a little bit, Dave. Better put my best broadcasting foot forward here, huh? I mean, the Stones, Tyson.
Yeah, we have a stoppage of play. You see that the clock is out adjacent to the Penn State bench, so the officials are keeping both teams to their respective sides.
So you said there's a lot of history here.
Right.
Potentially that clock may have just become history as well, is what you're telling me. And it's back, just like that.
There's a look at Pat Chambers' team, and what a remarkable run they went on last year to go 8-1 down the stretch without Watkins. The turnaround that he's had since the DeChellis era at Penn State has been remarkable, especially last year in that superb finish, not only later on in Big Ten against some Goliaths in the Big Ten Conference, but also throughout the NIT.
Yeah, and it's how he's had to do it. A guy who doesn't do a lot of damage with the long ball. A lot of the defensive focus is on him, and yet he's remained relatively efficient from the field.
Dorn, unfinished business for him. Thunderberg also came in for the first time for NC State, alternating possession Then we'll go the opposite way. There's Hara as well, a guy who was thinking about playing college football at Army.
And now North Carolina State, this is what they love. A dead ball allows them to set that full court pressure defense, try and pursue some traps potentially if they're there. And look, they may not get the turnover, but they speed you up. That's advantage Wolfpack.
To find Stevens, he's 1 of 2 from 3, and Harrow's coming in off the bench with the offensive board.
Again, not exactly the possession defensively that the Wolfpack want because they didn't grab the rebound, but they forced the shot that they want. In the first 5 to 6 seconds of the shot clock, Penn State playing fast. You talk to Coach Keats and you ask him, you say, look, that may not be a turnover notched down on the box score, but it is in our book because it lends to the style of play through which we like to operate.
It's 10 games since their last one against Western Carolina. They won that one 100-67. Floaters off the heel there, and the rebound of Markel Johnson also coming in off the bench. He's been a normal starter this year. In fact, it's the first game he's come off the bench under Keats. And the alley-oop finish by Dorn.
That's a setup man, ladies and gentlemen. A guy who averaged better than 7 assists per game a season ago, averaging a tick over 4 assists per game this year. A playmaker off the bounce, sets his men up.
Harris double teamed to the post and throws it away. Back to NC State.
Putting a little bit of sauce on this one is Johnson. The crossover gets that defense shifty on their heels. No look distribution to Dorn and the punctuation. That is prime time playmaking worthy of a Boardwalk appearance.
And we were speaking with Kevin Keats pregame, and he told us he needs that leader to step up. Will it be Dorn? Will it be Johnson in year 2 under Keats?
Yeah, because there's no true star on this team. Dorn may be the headliner, but he's not a nationally known entity. So you've got a lot of guys who look at each other as equals, which is great, but you need that alpha during turbulent times to say, hey guys, let's get in line. Let's execute Coach Keats' game plan. But this is a team playing at a very high level.
So here's Reeves, who leads the Big Ten in steals. Also coming in is Jamarlee Wheeler, who's a huge spark plug off the bench. He started early on for Penn State, but now coming in as that 6th guy. And the offensive board handled there by Reeves. And it's grabbed by Helms, who also looked good last game for NC State. Dorn with the pull-up. And NC State takes the lead in Atlantic City.
Dorn starting to get going here, and again, off a make, domino effect, allows NC State to set that full court pressure.
And it's blocked there by Funderburk, also coming in, averaging 17 minutes per game. A lot of newcomers for Kevin Keats. How does he manage all these guys, in particular the transfers?
Because it's business as usual for him. If you remember back, was the head coach for 12 years at Hargrave Military Academy, which shifted rosters almost on a yearly basis. So talking to Coach, he says, look, I'd love continuity, obviously, at the college level, but this is how I was used to molding players throughout my time and my tenure at Hargrave. So I'm used to getting guys for a year, making it work at a high level, and then keep it moving.
Keep in mind only 3 returning players from last year. That's a reversal there. It's missed there by Watkins.
And oh, by the way, Dave, they're high-level guys that are coming into the program here at North Carolina State.
And finished by Funderburk. It's an 8-0 run for NC State. Penn State, meanwhile, has missed the last 5 shots on the floor. Reeves driving baseline, counted and a foul for Penn State. Coming to another timeout here, and NC State has really looked good.
Yeah, Markel Johnson pushing tempo right here, threads the needle to Funderburk. The big fella rim runs, and he is rewarded. But Penn State, a cerebral return possession. Reeves, the lucky lefty, a head fake, saw a good shot from distance, pursued a better shot at the rim.
2 early fouls on DJ Funderburk off the bench. And Reeves has 9 points in 39 minutes last game against Colgate. He leads this team in assists, but he's a guy that's not only a product on the offensive side, he's a trendsetter defensively for Pat Chambers, which has been the strength at Penn State.
Yeah, look, we've spent a lot of time early on here talking about North Carolina State's penchant to forcing the turnover, but this is a guy that averages nearly 3 steals per game. Sets a tone defensively for this team, and again, senior, a guy you look to on a neutral site, pretty much on the road here.
Finger roll finish there by Markel Johnson, 2nd in the ACC in 3-point field goal percentage, but is prone to attacking the rim. And the Wolfpack lead by 3.
Johnson really giving this team a lift off the bench. Best suited and used to coming in as a starter, but coming off that bench and providing.
Go through Watkins again against Walker with the right hand. Count it for Penn State and Mike Watkins.
It's a big-time play. It's a big-time play from this redshirt junior at 6'9". There's not a body like his on the floor. Wyatt Walker can't move laterally as well. He's a big piece, but the footwork, the patience, and like all great finishers, he keeps his eye on the goal despite the contact. Got to establish Watkins early. Penn State becomes that much more dynamic when you've got a guy who was scoring double figures a season ago, getting out there and scoring early for this team.
And it's good to see him back, Jordan. He's dealt with a slew of off-court issues. It was disclosed in October. He's managing bipolar disorder. He's recovered from his knee injury last year, forcing him to miss the last 9 games. Just great to see him back out here. Officials are going to halt play here as Blake Harris went to the floor. We got a violation. Harris is a terrific defender for NC State.
Dave, this is what the Wolfpack do to you. They get up in you. Blake Harris, the best on-ball defensive player for the Wolfpack, picks that pocket on the boardwalk and gets it going the other way. If NC State can turn Penn State over at a high clip, it should be their game.
Walker for 3. Steps out and drains it for NC State. It's his first 3 of the season, 1 for 2.
Shot that thing pretty casually and reacted like he does it all the time. That's when you know NC State started to play at a high level, but again, Penn State hanging tough, fighting that defensive pressure. Whose game is it? Stick around and find out.
NC State is coming off a 100-67 win over Western Carolina. In that game, they forced 33 turnovers. Forced a turnover 39% of the Catamounts' possessions. Count them there, Jordan.
The West Carolina guys back home are watching Western Carolina say, come on, we got to relive this moment. It takes me back to Oprah's final season. You get a steal. No, you get a steal. You get a turnover. Everybody won that night for this North Carolina State team. But look, that's on the apex of what they do. But realistically, they're turning their opponent over at an incredibly high clip. They're earning nearly 19 turnovers per game. So a very big part to what this team does defensively, having that kind of impact.
Those 33 turnovers were the most since the 97-98 season. Well, NC State has forced 4 turnovers. That has allowed them to have the 4-point edge here in the game. Johnson was strong with that attempt and hauled in by Watkins. Miles Dredd, a freshman that they want to step up on the offensive side, is also still out there. Inside to Watkins again. Looks like there's going to be a foul away from the ball, though, and it's going against Penn State.
Interesting call there, and they're going to go on the ball, it looks like.
It's going against Bolton.
Wow, they're going to give Bolton that one. A charge, using the arm bar to create the advantage.
So Blake Harris now running the point with Markel Johnson, showing his versatility as a combo guard coming off the ball in the half-court set. And a walk of traveling violation called by Justin Porterfield on Harris. That's the 4th turnover on the Wolfpack.
Now this is an interesting possession here for Penn State, a team that's allowed North Carolina State to make a run and build a lead. Can they have an offensive possession here where they take care of the basketball? Because when they have, they've been able to pursue good-looking field goal attempts. Play your game. Don't allow North Carolina State to speed you up.
They're going to isolate Stevens. And the offensive foul on Lamar Stevens. The charge taken beautifully by Jericho Helms.
It's a freshman. High IQ play from a freshman who's buying in defensively to what Coach Keats wants to do. Fundamentally sound, patient defense against an elite scorer in Stevens. Offers his body up to the basketball gods, and it's another turnover.
How much pressure is levied on the shoulders of Stevens, in particular without Carr and Chip Gardner at Penn State?
Yeah, without those two, and Watkins easing his way back into finding that rhythm, not performing at the level that he was. It's a lot. Defensively, when you say our scout is going to be make Stevens, okay, he'll get 20, but make him do it on 17, 18 shots, he's the focal point. He's going to need the complementary players to start giving some compliments.
Markel Johnson is starting to feel it off the bench. He has 4 points, and NC State leads by 6. Reeves keeps it on this end of the floor for the Nittany Lions.
Look how intense the defensive pressure is from Harris. Several feet off the three-point line, nothing easy. They make you play fast. That's uncomfortable for any offense, especially one like Penn State's that struggles to score at times in the half court.
I like this matchup so far. Watkins, and he was rejected there by Helms. Been active on the defensive side. Harris was stripped, though, by Wheeler. Wheeler going to take matters into his own hands. It's a guy that started the first 7 games, only 2 points in the prior 3 games for Penn State. But inside there, they'll find Eric Lockett coming off the bench.
Harris rights his wrong there on the drive, collapses that defense, leaves it for Dorn, an easy lane.
Here's Bolton, taking Walker there. Lockett has a seam if he wants to beat Watkins. Harris with the 10-footer. Walker tried to tip it in to no avail, and into Watkins. So far, what have you made of NC State's pace? Is this exactly what you want to see from Kevin Keats' team?
Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly the kind of game they're hoping for. It's a track meet, because let me tell you, for 11 minutes, Penn State may be able to run back and forth with this team and change ends. But Coach Keats and the Wolfpack, they apply 10 guys. They play a lot of minutes, so they'll wear you down eventually. Penn State goes into their bench 2-3 guys. North Carolina State uses all 5 off their bench. So it's a battle of attrition and also conditioning, one that I think that ultimately North Carolina State could capitalize on.
Coming up later on ESPN, we'll have 2 more bowl games for you at 5:30 Eastern. It's Georgia Southern at Eastern Michigan at the Ray Cup Media Camellia Bowl. And at 9, the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. From the Superdome, Middle Tennessee quarterback Brent Stockstill plays his final game for his dad against Appalachian State. Both games are also live on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Exciting time of the year.
Oh, yeah, you got bowl season going on. You got big-time basketball, especially teams playing each other out of conference to really figure out on a national scale how your team matches up outside of conference. I love it.
You're seeing one of the better defensive teams of the Big Ten so far against one of the top scoring teams of the ACC at NC State.
And right now for the Nittany Lions, it comes down to, can we withstand that initial thrust defensively? Can we do what we do in the half court? Because they are getting the looks that they want. They just have to take care of the basketball.
A short there by Beverly. C.J. Bryce had the miss. A scramble for it here. It's Dorn who draws the contact for NC State. And we'll go to the line on the opposite side. Good start for Kevin Keats' unit. He's up by 4 over Penn State here at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Dave Letta with Jordan Cornette back in Atlantic City, and there's Pat Chambers, who got that contract extension after the NIT title, the second in Penn State history. Last year, Jordan, 26 wins, the second most in Penn State history. A lot of people are loving what he's doing in Happy Valley.
Yeah, it's the energy. It's building a culture. And, you know, some guys step into jobs and they're just a piece or 2 away from being a tournament mainstay. I'm telling you, Coach Chambers inherited a program that he really had to build from the ground floor up, and that's no knock on the staff that was before him. It's just what the case was. And what he's done is he's established a team that believes every time they step on the floor. He's brought in a type of talent to compete at a high level in the Big Ten. And look at wins that they've already gotten this year against like a Virginia Tech, the number 13th ranked team in the nation. This is a program that believes, and it starts from the top up. And that's what you get in Coach Pat Chambers.
Yeah, when you look across the Big Ten so far, that's a huge victory for the conference. And Pat Chambers, he wants to get this team to the NCAA tournament.
And if you look at the metrics, that could go down as maybe one of the top wins in the conference, a conference that boasts a lot of big-time wins to this point. The Big Ten has been as impressive as any coming out of the gates here this season.
He said it's the toughest schedule, in fact, that he's had since he's been at Penn State. Big Ten #1 in RPI amongst all the other conferences. So here's NC State still up by 3. Bryce nearly lost it. 10 to shoot here for the Wolfpack. Trying to beat Reeves. Needs help with Beverly. 5 to shoot. Beverly with the left hand. Walker has the fresh 30, trying to take Hara with the up and under and the reverse for NC State.
Incredibly debilitating for Penn State. Demoralizing. A team locks in and guards, runs it down to the shot clock, can't get the rebound on the other end. Big time offensive rebound and putback from Wyatt Walker, showing off a little footwork here on the boardwalk.
Yeah, it's good to see him back on the floor. Last year missed all but 2 games with a knee injury. He has 5 points. It's Dredd, and he drains the triple in front of the NC State bench.
It's a freshman who's struggled a little bit from the three-point line, only shooting a clip of 30%. But again, the swing pass gets that defense shifty, increases the percentage of knockdown ability.
Beverly has the hot hand from downtown. He's got 8 2-3s in the game. Pulls NC State up by 5.
Gotta have an awareness of your personnel. Beverly's out there to shoot the three-point shot and be a stabilizer with the basketball. Can't give him clean looks.
Now there's 10 total players that Kevin Keats told us that he uses, and he says there's no starters out there. Don't think of if you're coming off the bench or starting.
He also said, look, in practice, my practices are very high level, and 10 guys have earned a right to play. So I'm not just playing 10 guys to play 10 guys. These guys all deserve a shot at the floor. And what that tells me as a former guy who played the game is this team's getting better in practice because you got 10 guys that are playing on the floor. So those 5-on-5 scrimmages in practice, guys are improving because they're evenly matched.
Largest lead here for NC State as Pat Chambers calls a timeout. Beverly feeling it here in Atlantic City. Back after this. Thursday, we'll have the college basketball game of the night on ESPN2 at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Number 11, Texas Tech, takes on Zion Williamson at number 2 Duke at Madison Square Garden. This is the first ever meeting between these two schools. You could always catch it on the ESPN app from anywhere. But Duke's second in the ACC in scoring, just behind UNC, 9-1. Their lone loss by 2 to Gonzaga.
What a game that was, huh?
Archie Moore has really been stepping up for Mark Few, along with Perkins. Meanwhile, here in Atlantic City, it's Josh Reeves draining the 3. So far, NC State, Jordan, has done a nice job on Reeves and also limiting the freshman sharpshooter Bolton.
Penn State's begun to limit their turnovers, which has allowed them to play patient basketball, spread you out, and they're starting to utilize that three-point line. Big-time shot from Reeves.
Dorn was stripped there by the aforementioned Reeves. Jones coming in, pestered at the 10. Numbers here for the Wolfpack. Dorn slicing in, that was tipped by Watkins. And here comes Wheeler. Wheeler on the line and finished by Reeves. And the crowd here at NC loves it for the Penn State side.
Penn State channeling their inner North Carolina State. Don't mind if we do a turnover of their own. And I call this a little bit of Rosetta Stone. Translate some defense into offense. And Allie, no oops about it. Reeves, the exclamation point. Life above the rim. Dave, you don't know anything about that, do you?
Not at all, man. I need a ladder out there. Sitting next to the all-time shot block leader at Notre Dame. Another look at Reeves out there.
I haven't seen on-cam chemistry like that since Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, man. That is some basketball we're playing here in Atlantic City.
Yeah, 2-point game. Now, Jordan, who does the transition game favor? Because both teams like to attack it from 94 feet.
Penn State's more opportunistic in their transition. They like to get out and go as it allows itself because they are blessed with the athletes to do so, whereas North Carolina State, that is how they play the game. Coach Keats wants this game to be won in the 90s. If it's played in the 60s, I don't need to know anything else. I'll tell you Penn State wins the game. So North Carolina State wants to get out and go all the time.
That's a beautiful backdoor cut to Bryce. Compliments of Walker. NC State pulls ahead by 4. Miller's out there with Jones off the ball. Looks like could change the game, especially when he comes in off the bench. It's Jones, meanwhile, who's that instant offensive guy off the mark. And its tip will go back the opposite way here to Penn State.
Reckless offensive possession there, but here you've got the exchange, though. Walker patient, backdoor cut, almost like a running back in a wheel route coming around, and Bryce gets the layup opportunity there. That was a set run, very well executed.
At Notre Dame, how much of the coaching staff talk to you guys about moving without the ball in those cuts that maybe just people just casually watching don't see?
Well, Dave, you spend a lion's share of your time when you come in as a freshman learning how to play without the basketball, because these are stars that come in learning how to do it with the ball, and nobody likes that call on the exchange right there. Chambers livid. Can they get it right here? Penn State fighting. North Carolina State trying to figure it out. Stick around. Chambers giving him an earful.
NC State up by 4, the Air Force Reserve Hall of Fame Boardwalk Classic. Jordan, let's dissect why Pat Chambers got livid on the offensive foul.
Yes, I saw high emotion right there from Chambers, and this is why. On the exchange right there, Lamar Stevens is whistled for the foul. Now C.J. Bryce, overzealous with the defense, should have been a no call. So Coach Chambers upset because his star and Stevens now has 3 fouls, and he's worked up. Now people watching may say, well, how is it Coach giving a technical right there? You want to know why? Because the officials realized they got the call wrong right there, and they're not going to compound the mistake. So they swallow the whistle, swallow their pride, allow Coach to grandstand a little bit. But without a question, that was a no call. And if anything, I'd look defensively and say C.J. Bryce defensively, because of how aggressive he was on the exchange, generated the contact, and it should have been a foul defensively. No shot, that's a foul on Stevens, and unfortunate, he's now saddled with 3 and on the bench. So Penn State has to keep the boat afloat here without their star.
Has double figures in every game this year, leads the team in points and rebounds. Let's see if Watkins can get going. Very assertive to the cup. Started early on in this game. It'll go back to the line. It's going to go against Helms. That's his second. And keep an eye on the foul situation here. 7 on NC State, 6 on Penn State. And now, how much is levied on Watkins here without Stevens? Do you feel like they're going to run more half-court sets through Mike down low?
Yeah, you know, the dribble drive for these Penn State guards, they've been able to pursue some gaps and get to the rim. That's how Watkins is able to be impactful, so to speak, so far, because it's been drive and dump-offs to him. So he just needs to continue to loiter on that low block, and he'll be rewarded. But it starts with the perimeter play, attacking this defense aggressively. How do you beat an aggressive defense? With an aggressive offense of your own. And Penn State has shown that here in the first 17 minutes of play.
Penn State 1 of 5 at the charity stripe. That was their Achilles heel against Indiana. They lost by 2 to IU. They went 11 of 26. The free throw line. Chambers wants that to be cleaned up.
It's a whole lot of money left on the table, my friend.
That was on Watkins, and it will put NC State at the line here in Markel Johnson. Now's the front end of the 1-and-1. A 21 against Wisconsin in the lone loss for the Wolfpack. Wisconsin's having a remarkable start under Greg Gard. They were battled with injuries last year. Ethan Happ still there. They have Davison, Demetric Trice. That's a prime team in the Big Ten.
Ethan Happ has played like a National Player of the Year candidate. No question, a first-team All-American, and he's the reason that team's playing at such a high level in a bounce-back year for the Badgers. Going back to this one here, though, I will project if this game stays at this pace, I'm looking at Penn State to take care of business. North Carolina State needs this game to climb to the 80s and 90s. Penn State wants this thing to hover around right about where it is and the pace where the scoring is at. This is a Penn State play game despite the fact that they're trailing. They have stymied North Carolina State's open floor ability, and they've begun to take care of the basketball.
Wyatt Walker trying to go for his second 3. Meanwhile, the Bolton 3 was his first today. Bolton had 7 threes against Colgan, which they won by 11 on December 6th. It's a good move inside by Reeves with the left hand, and he'll finish from the arc right to the cup.
I don't know
10 points.
I don't know the house rules, but you're definitely supposed to split on that one. How about how he attacked the defense and gets to the rim?
In a 1-point game, Penn State fans started to get alive here at historic Boardwalk Hall. Tevin Daniels been quiet as of late with the left hand short. Daniels, though, gets it back, and Kevin Keats has to love that for NC State.
It's a big-time play. This roof would have exploded if Penn State was able to take the lead, because it is indeed a pro-Penn State fan base here right now. They've showed up in droves.
Watkins with the right hand. Was tipped out by Reeves, but right to Markel Johnson, who will solo with the right hand.
Watkins looked fatigued on that offering. That post move, he looked incredibly lackadaisical, and his offering at the rim showed as much. And North Carolina State takes full advantage off the miss, gets out and runs.
Keep in mind, Jordan, he's responded coming off the bench. He started the previous 9 games. He's got 8 points, coupled with 4 assists.
And look, no post up. Not really working hard for it there.
Jones is off the mark for the charity stripe. Bryce wanted to take Bolton. Here comes Penn State with Dredd. Out to Reeves.
Reeves having himself a game. A leak out of his own. North Carolina State starting to struggle with turnovers for a team that likes a generator.
Reeves has 12. A 3-point game. Here comes Penn State again with Bolton. What to take Johnson? Unfinished business for him. The opposite way with Daniels now. Wyatt Walker with the reverse, beating Watkins. Five-second game and shot clock differential. Bolton, double. Jones gives it up. Watkins finishes with a 2-hand flush.
Another dribble drive, exploring the gaps. Jones gets there, dump off to Watkins. Gonna be interesting to see what you do here. Johnson on a high screen, you would think they're gonna show a double.
Reeves has the strip, but taken back here by Bryce, who cannot beat the horn, and will culminate the first half with a 3-point lead for NC State.
What a back and forth sequence in this one, Dave.
NC State leading here over Penn State here in Atlantic City as we reach halftime from Boardwalk Hall. The break leads Penn State by 3. Welcome back courtside with former Notre Dame standout Jordan Cornette. I'm Dave Leno. We made so much about the tempo prior to this matchup. Now that you've seen a first half of play, who's it favoring so far?
Well, Dave, I firmly believe the tempo would favor at a high pace NC State. But Penn State's proven to be very comfortable in that regard. If this one goes back and forth, you take a look at some of these highlights early on, it was all North Carolina State. And it felt like North Carolina State established that tempo. It'd be too much for the Nittany Lions. And it looked like it was cruise control. Braxton Beverly bangs down 1-3, dribble drive, kick out. Beverly gets another 3 ball to go. Then you mix in, sprinkle in some Torn Dorn, their established senior score with a kick, alley-oop dunk, and then things were good. But then NC State failed to take care of the basketball. 10 turnovers in the first half, allowed a leak out like this one from Reeves for a dunk finish, and Josh Reeves continued to be the lighthouse for a team that was devoid of Lamar Stevens, got in some early foul trouble, and the lucky lefty started getting going. Finished the first half with a team-high 12 points, 3 dimes in attack mode, playing downhill, and the team took cues from him. This game en route to being scored in the 80s or 90s, and Penn State, with the way that they've been able to take care of the basketball down the stretch and also turn over the Wolfpack, it feels like Penn State can play any type of game this afternoon.
First half stats brought to you by the Basketball Hall of Fame. Both teams shooting very efficiently out there, and it seemed Jordan as well in half number 1. Penn State got out to the lead, then when North Carolina made a run at about the 15-minute mark, they've just held on to it.
Truly have. They have not. It's a bend, don't break mentality right now for the Wolfpack without question.
Dave Leto, Jordan Cornette, and our entire ESPN crew from Atlantic City. It's NC State in black battling Penn State, and it's Daniels right to the rack to lift the lead for the Wolfpack by 5. He's looked good, the redshirt sophomore, the transfer from Utah who sat out last year. Kevin Keats told us that he really wants to step up his performance on both ends of the floor, and he's doing it today. And that's another guy that's been very active is Beverly. Gets the start in place of Johnson, and he's been all over the floor.
Well, this guy very comfortable in a starting role. Beverly manned that position as a starter his freshman season and proved to be a very stable guy, an incredible assist-to-turnover ratio as a freshman and confident shooter. So this is a guy that's not overwhelmed by logging heavy minutes against a formidable opponent.
There's Stevens back in. Now, Jordan, he's mired by 3 fouls. How does he work here on the defensive side?
Well, Daniels is a physical guard. I'd really challenge Stevens to defend against a physical offensive opponent. Try and get him that 4th foul early on here in the second stanza. Get him back on the bench. See if Reeves can still be that go-to scorer without Stevens on the floor alongside him.
He's got 7 points in the game. 1 of 2 to start the second half. Watkins can't corral, and here comes Beverly. Beverly on the lob there, and it's banked in by C.J. Bryce off the window. He's got 6 points. Beverly has great eyes out there, according to Kevin Keats. Just reads and manages those half-court sets for the Wolfpack. Off balance is Bolton. He's fouled from 3.
A smart move there from Bolton. Anticipated some contact coming there and was able to get into a shooting motion to earn himself 3 from the charity stripe. Here you go. Beverly, good feel, patience, and then waits for a lane to be filled, and C.J. Bryce gets the easy 2.
That was on Beverly. That's his 2nd. And we'll put Bolton at the charity stripe. You know, I mentioned to Pat Chambers, he's playing superb as a freshman. Is he the best freshman that's been under you? And he said no. The answer to that was Tony Carr. Tony Carr was superb at Penn State. And that lethal combination last year with Mike Watkins, that was a formidable duo in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and you think about some of the guys that have come through under Chambers, and you talk about those high-level performers. Penn State has not been a gold standard by any means in this conference, but Coach Chambers has recruited some talent throughout his 8 seasons.
Wyatt Walker with 15 to shoot for Watkins. It's a better first step on that attempt.
Now, we didn't feature Walker in our first half highlights, but he's putting together an impressive game, 9.6 boards of his own, really giving his team a lift.
Battles in and out there for Reeves, and here comes the Wolfpack up by 4. Dorn with the left hand.
Where is the help side defense? Layup lines, too easy.
He's got 9 points, 4 of 6 from the field. Shoots 53% from the floor. Here's Stevens with those 3 fouls. But Dorn's all over him. Good cut down low with the extra pass. Watkins was swatted away by Daniels.
Now that's help side defense. You got to love the rotations. Incredible effort there defensively from the Wolfpack. Devoid of it on the other end, though, is Penn State's help side defense. Dorn catches, ho-hum dribbles, offhand layup. Contest comes late. Now this is clinical help side defense on the other end. You've got the drive, again, from Dorn. Nothing there defensively, the easy layup. And I'll show you in a few sequences there what true help side defense is.
That was charged to Daniels. Was his 2nd. Penn State down by 6. Bolton in the post over Dorn. And that was Lamar Stevens, and Stevens wanted the call. He didn't get it.
I talk about Stevens at 6'8", such a versatile piece. Can play with his back to the basket, can square up and face from the perimeter. He's just a tough guy to guard.
And the offensive foul called against Wyatt Walker of NC State. Could this be the momentum that Penn State needs here, down by 4, 3 minutes into our second half?
Absolutely, because they've been on the doorstep. Dave, they've been right there. Can they put together a string of stops like they've been able to do, but convert on the other end? That will be the tell here. Can they get something going offensively despite the efforts that they made defensively? Put together a sequence of those 3 stops, they can find themselves with a lead for the first time in a long while.
Stevens stepping out from 3 into Daniels. And they were looking for Wyatt Walker, goes to the floor. Officials confirmed will be alternating possession, and we'll go back the opposite way to Penn State. Now the game has slowed down because we touched on tempo to start the second half here. And now in a slower pace game, you're going to see more of these sets by Kevin Keats, who likes to go and be that run and gun type of offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And defensively, again, Penn State, no slouch in terms of takeaways. I mean, averaging just under 9 steals per game, which is tops in that Big Ten. So don't be too surprised with some of the things that they've been able to do defensively here. But again, schematically in the theme, we assumed it would be North Carolina State winning the takeover battle with how good they are nationally at that.
Stevens draws the contact on Funderburk. Kevin Keats' team has 12 turnovers in the game. They averaged 12 so far. It's drastically different from his prior performances in the wins against Vanderbilt in Western Carolina so far. A little bit sharper on both ends of the floor, but they have, more importantly, maintained the lead throughout. See that plus nearly 7 turnover margin. That's 4th in Division I. 4 fouls on NC State in the half. Tail Reeves takes advantage of that. Hera down low. And here comes Ellams. Beverly for 3. Stevens pushing the rock, draws the contact, and a foul for the Nittany Lions.
That's a missed opportunity from the Wolfpack defense to get Stevens his 4th foul. Look, he's coming downhill with momentum. Going a China shop type drive. Funderburk should have got position and allowed that momentum to come at him and take the charge, but instead you got a fist pump the chest, and Stevens with an old-fashioned 3-point play opportunity.
And wow, Jordan, that's 4 fouls on DJ Funderburk. Now in that situation, does somebody for NC State have to step up and try to deny Stevens going up there?
Well, you would like to see a guard grab him at half court, especially with how the Wolfpack defend. But you got that momentum. Once a big fella identifies that momentum, that's a charge opportunity. And that's what Funderburk should try to do, not lackadaisical, try to deflect it and have a shot block. Take the charge, especially with the guy in foul trouble and a star of that caliber.
Here's Helms with the pull-up. Opportunity for Penn State to tie with a 2. They can go in front with a triple. Stevens. It's going to be an offensive foul. And keep in mind, that's number 4 on the star, Lamar Stevens. Could this be the turning point?
Exactly what I was talking about. He's been very aggressive on those drives. A physical guy. Pounding the chest before, got the finish. Different story this time. Stick around.
Dave Letta with Jordan Cornette back in Atlantic City. NC State leads by 2. Could this be the turning point in the game? Stevens just picked up his 4th foul. Jordan, what do you see here?
Look, Nittany Lion fans, you're not going to like what I have to say here. You might say, oh, but he's moving defensively. It's okay that Helms is moving defensively as long as that chest is in front of the offensive player. He's not impeding movement. The arm bar, where the arm bar comes in, that is where Stevens violated because of the positioning, despite moving, but moving with him defensively. Helms earns that whistle. That's the right call. And I was cognizant of that coming down. I said, these have been some aggressive drives from a guy who's in foul trouble, and eventually it caught up with him there. That is the correct call.
That's detrimental because he was really picking it up in the second half. He hasn't fouled out this year. 10 to shoot here for Bryce, and nails the 3. Big one out of the timeout for Kevin Keats' unit.
Coach Keats, talking with him pregame, said, C.J. Bryce has really worked at his game, that percentage, shooting at 40%. Wants him to take more threes, pursue more of them, takes a big one there and opens up just a little bit more of a lead.
Here's Bolton in the corner. Beverly charged to him. 10 to shoot for the Nittany Lions.
More challenged offensive lineup. No Stevens, no Watkins.
Top of the key, it's Dredd. In and out. Hera tried to go for the miss along with Reeves, but corralled in there by Beverly.
That's where the Wolfpack have to be opportunistic. Because of those 2 pieces on the bench, you got to look to build. And again, another turnover from the Wolfpack. Careless with the pill.
13th turnover, and it leads to an and 1 for Penn State, Shamarly Wheeler.
Carelessness from the Wolfpack. And on the other end, Penn State making them pay. Wheeler, how about that Euro step and finish? just enough contact, and a big fella, Wyatt Walker for the Wolfpack, has to understand, in that spot, I can leave nothing to chance. You have to foul hard, not give him an opportunity for a bucket and a free throw. Non-committal allows for the basket right there and a chance for one more.
Third foul charge to Wyatt Walker. And Wheeler's that guy that plays more of a defensive role, actually, according to associate head coach Keith Ergo. And it's Jones coming off the bench is more of that instant offense for Penn State.
Markel Johnson had himself a magnificent first half. 8 points, 4 boards, 4 assists. Coming off that bench, can he provide that same spark?
And this is what NC State needs to do more efficiently, is get to the charity stripe as Blake Harris draws the contact.
As you look at this and you say, how is North Carolina State not able to open this up? How's Penn State hanging? Penn State has done a sublime job of erasing the transition game from this Wolfpack team. Wolfpack want to get up and down. They want to track meet. They want to pursue early offense in space. Penn State has taken that away, made NC State work in the half court to generate their offense, and they've showed that they can, but they're failing to take care of the basketball. Penn State has a defense that will turn you over too. They've been able to do that, and that's why you've seen this thing so close. Neither team has been exceptional taking care of the basketball, and it's plagued both teams. That's why this thing, as it sits right now, is so even.
How does that defensive intensity help Penn State, especially in the rigors of upcoming Big Ten play?
The Big Ten, Penn State, how they play fits the style of a lot of Big Ten teams. Very physical, they've got good length, they've got versatile pieces, very tough, well-coached teams. That is kind of the norm in the Big Ten, and that's why you see perennially these teams get to the tournament, a lot of teams. Very well coached, execute at a high level. The Big Ten, though, you'll have their fans tell you, that's great, but we haven't had a title in 18 years, the last one being Michigan State. We need another title. They see good basketball, but they don't see the gold standard, and that's where they want to get to.
Could it be Michigan, who's unbeaten right now at 10-0? John Beilein's team is playing very superb to start.
Coach of the year, in my opinion, right now.
Well, it's a three-point game here in Atlantic City. Here's NC State. Johnson on that reverse again. We've seen that a few times throughout this matchup. There's 5 double-figure games this year for Kevin Keats' unit. 3 here for Bolton. Penn State desperately needed that. It's a 2-point game. 13 points for Bolton, his second 3 today.
It's a guy coming off 7 threes in a Colgate win, a career best 27 points. Confidence shining through this afternoon.
Wyatt Walker had a mismatch down low, and a foul on this side of the floor. It's going to go against Bolton. Let's go back to the last 2 buckets.
Again, Johnson has really provided that spark off the bench. A little hesitation for a little defensive devastation. Watkins can't hang with him there. Put some sauce on it. And then again here, the drive down the baseline allows things to open up defensively. Bolton pursues the baseline, bang down 3. The guy who shoots 43% with the long ball gets that clean a look. You can count that one like the first of the month.
There's Lockett. Wheeler lost it, then regains it here for Penn State. Can tie with a 2, go in front with a 3. It's Wheeler! Out of foul for Penn State! We're deadlocked at 55!
The guy averaging just under 3 points per game in attack mode. Walker, again, with his size at 6'9", a grad transfer has played a lot of basketball, needs to understand that's a charge or one more step over to take away the gap. Failure to do so, another gap pursued from Penn State.
And the first lead for Penn State since it was 9-7 at the 15-minute mark. Johnson, who's been the spark, eyeing up a 3. Ice in his veins for NC State.
Wow. It's what we call in 2018 a clapback.
13 points for Johnson. Helms Pestered Bolton there. And this is going to be an offensive foul called against Eric Lockett, who came in just a few minutes ago.
Good movement there. Harris gets in the teeth of the defense, swings it out. Now Reeves is in pristine defensive position here. Nothing gained. Johnson just hits a tough shot in the eyes of the defense. And again, you talk about a guy providing something. His role shifted a little bit. Typically a starter coming off the bench and still putting those starter-type production box score stuff in there. Points, assists, rebounds, doing all the things to keep his team in line here.
And Johnson's really bolstered his three-point shooting. When he got on campus, he was a 25% three-point shooter for NC State. Now at 49. The Nittany Lions down by 2. Reeves with the fadeaway. Watkins tried to get it, and the foul's on this end of the floor. Goes in favor of Penn State as we come to another timeout. Coming up on the other side, we'll look at a Nittany Lion playing the world's largest pipe organ here at Boardwalk Hall when we return.
Yo, let's go. I don't hear no juice. Let's go.
Yeah, just wait.
That was yesterday at practice. Roger Bolton, the freshman, a man of many talents, playing the loudest and largest musical instrument in the world, the Minmer Lash Opus 5550 pipe organ.
I don't know, maybe stick to his day job. He's having himself an afternoon here with 13 points. Maybe just let the organ remain by itself there.
The scales might need to be cleaned up, but they're fine-tuning on the hardwood here for Penn State right now, because you see Watkins just tied the game at 58. Special thanks as well to Scott Banks with the Historic Organ Restoration Committee for going above and beyond, and the James Martin for their assistance with the organ. Just an amazing place, very historical here at Boardwalk Hall. And here's Johnson for 3, and the rebound to Reeves. Locked up at 58.
Vanderberg has 4. I'm going down low to Watkins. I got to find a way to get my big fella down on a low block. Vanderberg can't defend like he wants to. If he does, he's going to violate himself out of this game.
It was a tough shot for Reeves, in and out. Vanderberg had it. And pushing here is Johnson.
Got to be a call.
I don't think it was tipped there. That should have went to Penn State ball, according to Pat Chambers and the Penn State fans.
It looked like it may have been tipped, but it looked like it came back. Let's take a look. It looked like it came back to Johnson. Yeah, I mean, that's a travel.
Does Dredd touch that at all?
No, and it stayed within the hands of Johnson as he came back down to the floor, essentially jumping up and down with the basketball and continuing on.
That's Bryce. He'll go to the foul line to put NC State back on top. This year you're seeing more of an assertiveness for C.J. Bryce to get to the rim, because he is a terrific shooter. He played for Keats at UNC Wilmington. In fact, was the top scorer there.
17, better than 17 points per game, yeah. That's a guy, when Bryce comes to you and says, Coach, I want to come with you, you don't hesitate. You say, well, let's do this. You know, a first-team All-CAA performer during his freshman campaign there. This is a guy, freshman and sophomore seasons, that experienced NCAA tournament bursts. So he knows what it's like to play with a lot on the table, and that's why you can lean on the junior. Excuse me, those points per game were as a sophomore, averaging better than 17 per game.
Vanderberg with his 4 fouls cleans up beautifully for the Wolfpack. And it was stripped there by Bryce yet again, but taken back by Wheeler. The 15th turnover on NC State that matches the season high.
You got to ISO, let him go to work.
And they are with Watkins, and an offensive foul called against Jamarly Wheeler going over the back.
Now Watkins on that sequence, you dump it down to the big fella. It's him versus Funderburk, who has 4 fouls in space. You got to have something going at the rim, not fading away. You're fading, there's no pressure for the official to blow the whistle, and you're taking a low percentage shot. So there is nothing gained in terms of trying to foul out Funderburk or convert 2.
Here is Funderburk. That is his second 3 today. You think it's a concerted effort for Penn State to run a lot through Watkins here because you mentioned Funderburk's in that foul trouble?
Yeah, not really right now because they're putting him in that high ball screen. That high ball screen is a high percentage opportunity for him to violate again. I don't know why you're not doing a screen the screener down low, have him catch a play out in space in isolation right there on that low block.
13 turnovers on Penn State. They took a brief lead just a couple minutes ago. Seasaw's back to NC State. 8-1 out of the ACC. Only 1 loss by 4 to Wisconsin. That was on the road in Madison. Johnson doubled. And the call against Roger Bolton, their Oregon player. That's his 3rd.
Got to clean up some talking there. You'll have that. 18 to 22-year-olds get a little boisterous sometimes. Let's get back to the game.
Under 10 minutes to go in regulation. Beverly had a strong first half. He's really controlled the game for Kevin Keats as he'll call out his half-court set here. Reeves, one of the best defenders out of the Big Ten, all over him. Funderburk, he walked though. It'll be another turnover on the Wolfpack. That is the 16th, which is now a new season high. And Stevens is going to come back in on the Penn State side with his 4 fouls. Keep an eye on that time there, 9:21 left.
Wolfpack got to continue to get up in defensively, try and be disruptive, generate some of that defense, turn it into some offense for a team that has struggled in a half court with turnovers and take care of the basketball. Need to get back to doing what they do best, turning over the opponent.
Bolton on the defensive switch. Funderburk was in his way. Harrow with the right hand gets the roll. Just his 2nd bucket. He's been quiet today. But he's been down there for his low post presence defensively.
Provides good size at 6'9". Another one of those long, versatile, physical athletes for these Nittany Lions.
In and out for Dorn. Tip to Johnson to wisely pull out here. NC State still working quick with Beverly. That's a smooth left hand. Yeah, look for Harrod because he's been in these pressured situations. Last year when Watkins missed 9 games due to injury, Harrod was the guy that had to step up and help them to go to the NIT title game and win it.
As a freshman, and he still has decent numbers in his sophomore year, ever growing, improving. Just over 4 points per game, nearly 5 rebounds per game, and that's where he can be impactful. Being a guy down on that front line who rebounds, sets screens, runs the floor, and defends.
Our Week 15 Monday Night Football matchup is an NFC South battle in Charlotte. Drew Brees and the 11-2 Saints clinch the division Sunday, but now look for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. While Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, and the Panthers are desperate for a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. At 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and available on ESPN app so you can watch anywhere. And don't forget our coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown at 6. How do you like the Saints this year? You think they're a prime contender for a Super Bowl?
Hey, I live in Chicago, man.
Well, I know that.
How you going to throw out another NFC team, man? Come on, I'm thinking Bears all the way this year with that defense. Drew Brees hasn't seen a defense like that this year. I couldn't go back to Chicago if I didn't defend my Bears.
Well, the Eagles around here are not doing that great. It doesn't appear that Carson Wentz is going to play.
Spare me. You guys got to. You're the reigning Super Bowl champs. You had your year last year.
You see Nicky Foles, Super Bowl MVP. Kept alive by Bryce. Now 8 to shoot here for NC State on the high-low with Funderburk, and finishes. What a look by Beverly.
I'm telling you, it's a chaotic pace. It still feels like it benefits the Wolfpack. They operate best in this kind of game. Well, it doesn't look like it's ideal for them, but I promise you it is. Right now, it feels like momentum has shifted to the Wolfpack with how this game is now going.
A foul going to be called here on NC State as we reach another timeout.
Go DJ. That's my DJ. DJ Funderburk, the low post, high percentage field goal. It's an easy game.
Dave Letta with Jordan Cornette back in Atlantic City with our entire ESPN crew. Penn State at the charity stripe here with Roger Bolton. Now the game has gotten more ferocious back and forth. Who's that favoring now?
Yeah, and some basketball purists may turn it on and say, man, this game's kind of gotten chaotic. I don't know who to pick. Well, I'll tell you, Coach Keats likes to play at a fast pace, wants a track meet, has 10 guys who operate best under that circumstance. This is advantage Wolfpack currently.
The game was tied at 58. NC State, at that point, went on a 10-4 run. That's how they've lengthened their lead here, complementing those bench points with 26.
Look, the game's very tight, no question. Penn State's still very much within reach, only trailing by two potential scoring opportunities. Yet still it feels like they're reaching to get their baskets where, amidst this chaos, the Wolfpack continue to operate and get what they want.
A 1-1 here for NC State. And Dorn will be at the free throw line. Here's Bolton running the point here for Penn State. Has Harrod down low if he wants him, running those high ball screens. Stevens playing with 4 fouls on the ball here. Prime matchup, Stevens against Dorn. Short. Hauled in by Daniels, who sat for a considerable time, just getting a breather. Had a good start to this game as well for Devin Daniels, the transfer from Utah. Funderburk almost got stolen by Reeves, the backdoor cut. That was kicked. Good play by Stevens. We'll just halt the clock.
Poor decision making from Funderburk trying to thread the needle with the impossible space to do so. 0% chance for success there and bailed out by a kick. Those are the careless mistakes that lead to turnovers.
Here's Dorn, and another good find by Beverly in the matchup. Dorn has 11.
Defense fell asleep at the wheel right there, allowing it to pass right into the paint on the out-of-bounds under. Inexplicable.
Bolton gonna find Dredd. Off the heel, Harrod tried to go for the miss, and it pinballs back to Beverly. NC State really doing a fantastic job slowing down Penn State. Their half-court defense has really strengthened throughout the game, Jordan. Bryce really tripped up. Daniels. And Penn State, you can just see visibly frustrated. Bolton in particular with the half-court defense. The 1-1 here, and we'll put NC State back at the line with Devin Daniels. This match is the largest lead for the Wolfpack as Watkins will come back in. And you're witnessing an NC State team third in the ACC in scoring, obviously during non-conference play, only behind UNC and Duke. They have outscored opponents by more than 27 per game, obviously drastically different in this matchup with a reputable Penn State team. They are going to be a fun team to watch moving forward throughout the ACC. Penn State looking for their 6th win on the opposite side, 0-2 out of the Big Ten. Deep three by Reeves. And an offensive foul called against Watkins.
Fundamentally sound block out right there, and those kind of fouls now translate on the other end to scoring opportunities. Watkins has to have better understanding of what's going on within the game, and now he's jawing with the official, and the last thing you want to do is earn yourself a technical here.
Kevin Keats' team was picked to finish 8th. There are 3 ACC teams in the top 10, and oh, by the way, if you want to add North Carolina, Jordan, they're at 12. So 4 in the top 12 right now in the ACC, a conference that's very deep getting to the dance.
Let me tell you something, Dave. You finish 8th in the ACC, you've had yourself a good year.
Yep.
That speaks to the depth and the amount of talent and good teams with great coaching that are in this conference, and it's looking like a conference that could very well get 10, 11 teams in.
In fact, 9 NCAA teams from the ACC last year. And it's hard to believe 13 different ACC schools have reached the NCAA tournament since 2014. As Pat Chambers is going to call a timeout here. Now let's see if Penn State can get back in this one. They're down by 9, under 6 minutes to play in regulation. Coming up on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on ESPN2, NC State will host number 8 Auburn, their toughest test to date, at the newly dedicated James T. Valvano Arena in Reynolds Coliseum. Auburn right now number 8. They have a primetime player in Jared Harper, coupled with Bryce Brown. They're at UAB today. They lost by 6 to Duke. That's their only defeat for Bruce Pearl's team.
2 very strong backcourts. You factor in Bryce Brown with that one and Torrin Dorn, and you think about that game will be won by which backcourt gets the best of the other.
Here's Reeves out of the timeout.
And quite frankly, right now, Penn State has picked a tough time to not knock down shots. They've gone cold here a little bit in a very critical stretch of the game where North Carolina State's beginning to build, and you could maybe look at fatigue being a factor in that one with such a deep Wolfpack team. It seems like they're getting stronger as they go, as Beverly knocks down a big-time 3.
See that 18-6 run, and just to shred that a little bit smaller, it's an 8-0 run for NC State here. Penn State has missed 9 of its last 10. See if they could change that here with Dredd.
Settling for the first opportunity of a look, not pursuing the best shot, taking a shot.
And Beverly's not going to be in any hurry here for the Wolfpack. Sees a seam and will finish for NC State. Braxton Beverly having an afternoon at Boardwalk Hall.
Serious defensive lapse here. You've got Reeves with the lackadaisical reach, allows the advantage for Beverly, compounds the mistake by a touch foul, so to speak, that allows for a 3-point play opportunity. Tough defensive sequence to watch there from Reeves, who's got to be better as a senior.
Beverly with a season-high 16 points. He has been that facilitator, the floor general that Kevin Keats has wanted. He, along with Johnson, who came in and hit some prime shots. Stevens. Hampered there by Funderburk. Both players have 4 fouls. Stevens for the deep 2. Short. Look how those numbers have dipped for Penn State in the second half. Just 8 of 25. An 11-0 run for NC State. And the hold down low called against Jamari Wheeler. We'll step aside once again. NC State pulling away from Penn State. See if the Nittany Lions get a last-ditch run when we come back.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Air Force Reserve. Explore your opportunities. Go to afreserve.com. And Citi, welcome what's next.
John Bate playing the world's largest pipe organ. Our thanks to him for this epic rendition of the Sports Center theme. I think, Jordan, you can handle those scales.
No. Not musically inclined over here. No rhythm. I stay 10-2. I keep it easy, man.
Well, sports there tonight on ESPN after the New Orleans Bowl with Bucci and Anderson. They'll have all the highlights from the first day of Bowl Mania, plus Texans, Jets, and Browns against the Broncos post-game coverage. And LeBron and the Lakers take on the Hornets in front of His Airness. Sports Center tonight after college football on ESPN and the ESPN app. By the way, that matchup, that prime matchup, the Auburn against NC State game, will be played at PNC Arena. That is expected to be a great crowd on hand for Kevin Keats' team, who is primed to get win number 9 of the season if they can close this out.
Another good challenge, another good measuring stick for where this team is before the new year hits. Really impressed with their depth. Equally as impressed with this Penn State team. I just think when it got down to the 30th minute on through to where we are now, they ran out of gas. They were overwhelmed by the depth and energy of this North Carolina State team. And look, there's still 3.5 minutes left. Crazier things have happened in college basketball, but as of right now, if the Wolfpack can hang on, it'll be because of the depth, the ability to go 5 deep on that bench, their style of play that Penn State could keep up with for about 30 minutes. Unfortunately, it's a 40-minute game, and despite some efforts from other guys to stay afloat, they could simply not do it for those last 10 minutes of this contest.
Pat Chambers told us that this has been the most arduous schedule that he's built. And the reason why you have to do that, Jordan, is because you're trying to get to the NCAA tournament in the deep Big Ten, but you're looking for those quad 1, quad 2 games. And if you don't know what that means out there, it's just going up against teams that have great RPIs to strengthen your chance to go dancing.
Absolutely. So you have to do less work in a very tough conference. So that ideal, that philosophy can help, but you got to win those games. And in this one, with Lamar Stevens, a guy who's giving you 20 points per game, saddled with some foul trouble, could be argued undeservedly saddled with that foul trouble, no question. But if a guy's going to score 9 points under his average against a defense like this and a team that can score it like North Carolina State can, put you in a tough spot.
Are you feeling all that pressure amongst the teams? Later we'll see Virginia Tech battle Washington. Mike Hopkins was telling us as well that you need to schedule so tough because you have to have an opportunity. You get 8, 9, 10 wins in league play to get you a chance to go to the NCAA tournament because of the non-conference slate.
Yeah, Dave, I think about a team I saw earlier this year, a very talented team with an incredibly talented freshman, Lugans Dort, the 6'5", very physical guard out of Arizona State. He was not on the team a year ago, but what Coach Bobby Hurley did with that team last season, so much work done front-ended, did a lot of their work in the beginning of the schedule, got some big-time wins, fluttered down the stretch, but did enough early on that earned themselves a space in the tournament. Now they couldn't get it done in the tournament, lost their first matchup, but got there because they earned those wins early. Try to stockpile as best you can early so the pressure doesn't break the pipes down the stretch.
That's Beverly again with his career day here in front of the faithful in Atlantic City. He has 18 points. That's 7 of 10 for the field, too. Wheeler denied along the baseline. That's a good up and under there by Bolton. He'll go to the line with 2:04 to play.
Really like Bolton's game. It's 6'2", an aggressive guard that really attacks the rim. He's got to work on his field coming into this one, 13 assists to 22 turnovers on the season, but he can shoot that thing. Good percentages, better than 40% from the field, 43% from 3, averaging just a tick under 14 points per game. He's another one of those pieces when you talk about what Coach Chambers is building here. You got to feel good about it. He continues to bring in talent. I'm a big believer in Coach Chambers and what this Penn State program can and will become.
4 losses this year for Penn State by 7 or less. Funderburk just fouled out. 12 points, a productive day off the bench.
You talk about balance. 5 guys in double figures for NC State. Wyatt Walker, 1 point away from hitting that. When you play 10 guys and they all play at a high level, that makes the scout so challenging for the opponent. Because you can't key in on one guy. Coach Keats prides himself on not having one star, so you can't cut the head off this snake. It's a dynamic team with a lot of different weapons that makes them that much harder to defend.
Funderburk, in fact, went 4 of 4 this afternoon. Didn't miss a shot. And Keats, even though he's playing 10 guys, and he has some transfers coming in, Manny Bates missing the year with that shoulder injury. Oh, by the way, have a transfer from Kentucky and Sasha Kalea-Jones that he'll get next year. NC State's going to be a fun team to watch over the next few seasons under Keats' system. Taking that first 9-1 start at the 05-06 campaign and counted there for Reeves. Now, what have you learned in this matchup with Penn State? Because they came out with a good start. They were leading 9-4. Then NC State, about the 15-minute mark of the first half, Jordan, just went on a run and limited Penn State's opportunities to try to tie it in half number one.
Yeah, I can look at it and say this is a very well-coached team, one that can execute a game plan. Coach Chambers and his team wanted to take away the transition game from the Wolfpack, not allow them to get out and just get easy baskets at the rim, layups and change ends. They knew they needed to take care of the basketball. They limited their turnovers against a team that takes you away nearly 19 times per game. They're underneath that. They were also able to eliminate those easy baskets and made the Wolfpack work in the half court. And that game plan worked for about 30 minutes until the depth of the Wolfpack overwhelmed Penn State here down the stretch. And there's nothing a coach can do to combat that. It is unfortunate the foul trouble that Lamar Stevens got in. Never really found his rhythm in this game. It would have been interesting to see what he could do against this Wolfpack defense for a full 40-minute offering. Obviously maybe getting some spells here or there, but he never found his rhythm. Reeves carried the day in the first half, and then Rasir Bolton, what he brought to this team, Bolton, in the second half, was very impressive stuff.
So in the game, 5 of 13, 2 of 4.
Reeves just went silent in the second half.
Yeah.
Reeves never gave them that lift they needed. I mean, when you look at this team, if you're saying Reeves isn't going to give you anything in the second half, Stevens isn't going to give you anything in the second half, well, where are you going to get it from?
Reeves 6 of 13 in the game as well. We should mention that Bolton did go to the free throw line. He's 10 of 11 in the matchup for Penn State. 54 seconds to go. NC State on the verge of picking up their 9th victory before that colossal matchup against Auburn.
Wolfpack have a penchant for getting the shot that they want nearly every time down. The turnovers less than to be desired, I'm sure, if you talk to Coach Keats in the postgame. But in terms of getting shots, makeable shots, and executing them, the Wolfpack can hang their hat on that one once again this afternoon.
NC State in the second half shooting at a superb 71%. Bolton for 3 and nails it from the corner. And the timeout called by Penn State. Well, Pat Chambers going to talk things over here, but on the flip side, Jordan, Braxton Beverly had a career afternoon.
He got the opportunity, given the start, something he did a lot of in his freshman campaign. Took that opportunity, made the most of it. Knocked down the three-point shots. He specializes there, but when they ran him off that line, he pursued those gaps and doesn't elevate like some, but finishes like any. His teammates love it, and in a lot of ways, he was a difference for the Wolfpack today. And again, you could go down that line. You could go down the list of players and have something good to say about not 1, 2, 3, but 10 guys. That's a rarity in college basketball. And let me tell you again, as a guy who played the game, one of the biggest challenges that's never talked about is what happens in practice. Do teams grow in practice? Well, if you've only got 3 good players, well, who are they going to get better against as opponents in practice when you play 5-on-5? If you've got a team that plays 10 guys, you best believe those 5 going against the other 5, you're going to grow every game and every day in practice, and that's what's happening with this Wolfpack team. A formidable foe.
Beverly with those 18 points is our player of the game, brought to you by Air Force Reserve. Penn State, meanwhile, trying to add on a couple more with Stevens. Wheeler inside. Short, but he'll go to the line. It is a Penn State team, though, that they're going to go down and fall for the 5th time this year, though, Jordan, that they do have some depth on the bench. Wheeler looked good. He provides a spark. I think they got to get Mike Watkins, though, going a little bit more. Obviously, he missed the first couple of games this year. This is only game number 5 for Big Mike.
At one point, Watkins was a guy you could pencil in as a double-double. And when he gets back to finding his footing, when that happens, this Penn State team becomes that much more dynamic. But when will that happen is a question that's got a lot of Nittany Lion fans out there scratching their heads on.
And 10 points, 5 rebounds in the matchup. So for Patrick Chambers' team, they'll fall to 5-5. They play 2 Big Ten games. And they've got a tough road ahead as well because, Jordan, they're at Duquesne, then they're at Alabama. So this is 3 games on the road away from Happy Valley.
And those are 2 interesting opponents because they're very physical opponents. Look, Duquesne is not a program that's going to ring bells, but they're a tough-minded team. Alabama's got some talent, got some length, and a high-level physical team. And then you get back into conference play. Michigan, Wisconsin, I mean, are you kidding me? So this Penn State team is going to be challenged. But, again, I go back to their coach. I'm a huge believer in Coach Chambers and what he's done in his 8 seasons and what he continues to do. And when you have a guy like that on your sidelines, it presents another advantage. Coach Chambers gives these guys on the floor every possible opportunity to succeed. That's the kind of guy you want as a face of your program.
And they were big down the stretch last year. Expect that to stay the same throughout this campaign as Reeves throws it away.
Having said that, Coach Keats is really starting to build something here at North Carolina State as well. In 2 years, he's definitely earned that extension. And North Carolina State's going to move on here this afternoon.
NC State will improve to 9-1. Penn State, conversely, will fall to 5-5. NC State just rallied throughout this one, holding off the Nittany Lions.
No question, the Wolfpack's depth overwhelmed the Nittany Lions. A good effort from Penn State for 30 minutes. Unfortunately, it's a 40-minute game.
That's going to do it here from Atlantic City. For Jordan Cornett and our entire crew, this is Dave Leno saying so long from Boardwalk Hall. Let's send you now to McKinney, Texas. Ferris State taking on Valdosta State for the D2 title game.